Ladies and gentlemen, we are on episode 3 of Foreign to 'em. I am your host, Gringo the MC, or as the Bloods call me, Bingo the MB. Whatever one works for you is cool with me. I got a few topics that I want to cover today. It's going to be a lot more lighthearted than yesterday was, or the first day for that matter. I don't want to just bring y'all down every time I do an episode. It is a form of therapy to me, but it doesn't mean that everyone has to be sad. You know what I'm saying? I got a few. I went back and I looked at the fan submitted questions from TikTok, and I'm gonna be answering a few of those, and we're just gonna be having a good time. So let me explain what the name Foreign to 'em means to start out with. The name Foreign to 'em, I decided to name it that because, well, actually, foreign spelled 40REIGN Enterprises is the name of my LLC. That's the name that I conduct business under. I guess you would call it the name of my label that I drop my own music through. It's not really a label. It's just the company that I do business as. The reason I call it foreign or foreign to 'em is because I feel like these artists are speaking a foreign language. Not just myself, but all artists pretty much. And it doesn't even stop at artists. I think if you're a doctor, if you're a chef, if you're a server in a restaurant, a waitress, waiter, you speak a foreign language that's only understood by other people who do what you do. And I think that's very understated. You know what I mean? I think, one person can work at the nicest steakhouse in the city and they're a server there, and another person can work at an Applebee's and they're a server there, but they speak the same language. There might be differences in their job and in their day-to-day responsibilities, but for the most part, they speak the same language. They go through the same hells and they experience the same joys in a lot of ways. And the same thing is true with artists and with any type of artist. But I first noticed it obviously with rappers. That's how I relate to the world, is through music and rapping and producing. But and the reason, the first thing that made me think of it as a foreign language is I would see people dismiss certain artists, especially like you look at people like Lil Yachty and Lil Uzi, a lot of the Lil rappers, the names that start with Lil, and people look at them and they dismiss them. They say, well, this person isn't talented. And I said, well, hold on a minute. When I first started seeing that happen, it started happening a lot with skinny jeans and auto-tune. And when all of those things became popular in music, those artists were getting dismissed. And I said, well, hold on a sec. I said, obviously, millions of people are relating to these people's art. So I'm not going to be so quick to dismiss these people. I want to know why. I think, and at the time, I was a big hip-hop head. I was into Eminem, Jay-Z, like classical hip hop is what I guess I would call it. I was into your Barkitects, the people who had bars. I was into the craft of hip hop and writing very clever and very witty lyrics and wordplay and double and triple entendres, all of that. And so I said, well, why are people into ignorant music? I don't think it's ignorant, but that's the word that they use to describe it. And I said, so why are so many people into this type of music? And so I start looking into it, and one of the first people that stuck out to me was Gucci Mane and other artists, from that southern trap, that from Houston to Atlanta to Florida. And I start reading through their lyrics, like actually reading them, pulling the lyrics up and reading them. And I said, holy shit, bro. I said, these people are talking that shit. They're just not, they may not be talking and using big words or whatever, but they're still explaining just as complex of ideas as, you know, your Nas and your Jay-Z's and your, you know, whoever you think of as an incredible writer or rapper. These people are still explaining just as complex of ideas. They're just doing it in a much different way, and honestly, sometimes a more relatable way, because they're not using the big words. They're not. It's something that you can hear and it makes sense to you from the very beginning. But if you really dig deep into why they're talking about that and what they're saying about the things they're talking about, they're explaining very complicated ideas and emotions, and so I said it's like a foreign language, you know. But if you've been around that environment, if you've been to the hoods that these people came from, or even if you've been to hoods local to you, you start to understand why that is so cool. You know, it like when around that time I was chilling a lot with my homies in Omaha, and they were very they were from the streets, you know what I mean? Some of them were in gangs, some of them sold drugs, some of them, you know, pimping, all types of shit like that. And so I would see these people who I considered my friends doing these things, and then I would hear these rappers talk about these ignorant topics. Like, I'm gonna keep putting the air quotes on ignorant, because I don't believe it's as ignorant as people think it is, but and I would say they're talking that shit. They're really explaining themselves in a very articulate manner, you know, and it's a foreign language. So that's what got me started on the whole idea of hip hop and its different subgenres really being foreign languages. And it's the same way that it's just different. Like, so you take a lot of these trap rappers, they get themselves into trouble when it comes to the business side of things, because once again, it's a foreign language. If you open up a contract from one of these labels or from anybody, you read through a contract, it's a foreign language. They're not talking regular English. They're not talking to you in a way that normal people are going to understand, unless you've studied law and you've studied, you know, the English language and grammar, and then only then you can start to put together what this actually means, you know. Everybody speaks their own foreign language. We all speak a common language, which is English, and, you know, some slang transcends cultures, you know what I mean? Sometimes a slang word gets so popular within a culture that it transcends that culture, and we all know what it means. You know, like a good example is, you know, we call marijuana pot, you know, and everybody knows what pot is, you know, but that started out as part of somebody's foreign language. I don't even know the origins of it, but if you dig deep enough, there's somebody who started calling it pot, and other people didn't know what that meant. You know, it was a foreign language to people at one point, until the slang word just gets so popular that it becomes a part of everybody's language. So that's why I called it foreign language. And I really do believe that I'm speaking a foreign language in my music. And the people who are the biggest fans of mine or the biggest supporters of mine, I think that they understand the language that I'm speaking, whether it be because they've been through similar things as me, or, you know, they just... whatever, something allows them the insight to know what I'm talking about when I say something. And that's why some people can hear music and say, oh, this is fire, and other people can hear the exact same music and say, this is garbage. It's a foreign language, foreign to them. On top of that, I changed the spelling and the way that it's written out, to pay homage to the place that I'm from, which is the 402, the eastern part of Nebraska. It's the area code for the eastern part of Nebraska, and foreign to them, 402, baby. You know what I mean? And I guess the other reason why that idea makes so much sense for me is because I came down from Nebraska at the age of 18, and I had to learn another foreign language when I came to Houston, because it's even though a lot of the things that I experienced in Nebraska are the same things that people down in Houston were experiencing growing up, it's not the exact same. There's differences. The culture is different. They speak a different language, a foreign language, or at least it was foreign to me at the time, you know? And the things that I grew up on, the music I grew up on, the slang words that I use were all a foreign language to the people down here. And it causes misunderstandings even from time to time. You might say something like out on the West Coast, they take the word weirdo very seriously, you know? And now that's starting to transcend the West Coast and become a national thing. But there was a time when, you know, if you were on the East Coast or if you were in the South or something like that and you call somebody a weirdo, like, it's obviously not a nice thing to say, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Whereas on the West Coast, like, to be called a weirdo is like somebody calling you bitch, or, you know, it's like one of the most disrespectful terms that you can use. So it's a foreign language, you know. Just because in your language weirdo might not be that offensive of a term doesn't mean that it's like that in every language. And so yeah, that's where the term foreign to him comes from. The term foreign language, that's what foreign means to me, you know. That's part of my language, you know what I'm saying? And so I really like it as the name. I feel like it's one of the best ideas I've had artistically, you know. I've had a lot of bad ideas artistically. I've missed a lot, but I feel like that's one of them 3-pointers that I sunk, you know, from the NBA line. So yeah, so that's what foreign to him means, and I think, like I said before, I think that it's like that in every industry, in every section of the world, not just the United States. You know, I've never been outside of the country, so I can't say for sure, but I would imagine that different cities in China have different ways of doing things, and if you spend your whole life in Shanghai and then you go to Beijing, there's a lot of things you're going to have to learn to adapt and to be accepted there or whatever, you know, just to get by. So yeah, so that's what foreign to him means. It's kind of a deep concept because there's multiple layers to it and layers to why I chose that, but it's crazy. It's crazy, man. I feel good today. I hope y'all feel good. I appreciate everybody who's tuned in. I mean, we're a few minutes into the episode now, so to everybody who made it this far, those are the people that are rocking with me. I know sometimes people get curious and they click into an episode and whatever, so the people who make it past the first few minutes, I appreciate y'all every time. As I keep going with this show, I would like to keep upping the production value of it, possibly start having guests on here, see where it goes, you know. I'm really enjoying it right now. Even just I think that the people who consider themselves fans of my work enjoy it because it allows you to look into my mind and see where I'm coming from when I say certain things or when I do certain things, or even just the things that I rap about. It makes it make sense because, you know, there's so many artists out there and there's so many talented artists out there. So for me, it's my job to let y'all know where I'm coming from so that you can relate to my music better. And hopefully maybe in the long run, maybe even help some people out in the process. Maybe, you know, maybe I can talk about the things that I go through, and maybe, just maybe, somebody out there is going through something similar, and hearing me talk about it can help put it into perspective for them, or vice versa. You know, maybe y'all will have advice for me. If you're not following me on social media, Spotify, Apple Music, anything that you use, man, help me out. Shoot me a follow on it. I promise I'll be putting out that gas musically. We're going to keep improving the merch. I sell merchandise and I sell beats on my website. I'm also a producer, so hit up stillgringo.com and check out everything that I got to offer. I would appreciate it, and anybody who's supporting, I do appreciate that already. I guess we'll get into this Q&A. We'll get into this Q&A. Like I said, I wrote down the questions from TikTok. It's only a couple of them today. It's 3 of them today. And these were intended for episode 1, but if you watched episode 1, you know that I had some technical difficulties and I'm using my main phone to record this, and on my second phone I wasn't able to get into TikTok. Hold on, before I read this Q&A, check this out, bro. This is my phone background on my second phone. It's my little sister. It was a candid shot of her. She was eating chocolate or something. She was in the back seat of the car, and I zoomed way in. Oh, hold on. I zoomed way in and took. Oh shit, bro, my bad. And I zoomed way in and I took a picture of her with chocolate all over her face. I love that picture, bro. Shout out to Ray-Ban. That's my little sister. But so let's get right into this Q&A, I guess. Number 1, the question is from at BigTrone7 on TikTok. Shout out to Trone. Y'all can follow him or check out his content. He said, explain your passion for music. And I don't even know if I know the answer to that. You know, I've just always loved music. Always loved it. My dad was big into music. My dad played guitar, not professionally or anything, but growing up, he was always playing guitar. He always had a guitar or two. He usually had an acoustic. He would sit there and play it. I remember being, kindergarten, first grade age, and he would just sit there playing guitar all the time. Sometimes I would sit there with him and I would learn the songs he was playing, and then I would sing the song and he would play it. And so I guess that's probably the foundation for why I started loving music, because it was a bonding experience with my dad. And then as I got older, when I became, 9, 10 years old, I was living with my mom instead of my dad at that point. And my mom had collections. She had collections of CDs, those big books that used to hold 1,000 CDs or however much they hold, 100 CDs, whatever they held. And I remember getting bored and just going through her collection and finding CDs. And, I would try to find artists who I was somewhat familiar with. So I would find a Keith Sweat CD. She liked Keith Sweat. And then I would put the Keith Sweat CD in and then just skip around the CD until I found a song that I was familiar with. And then I would jam out to it. A lot of 80s rock and stuff like that too. Van Halen, all of that. And then I started playing guitar. My dad got me a guitar. I started playing that. And when I started doing that, I obviously started getting real into just rock music, a lot of 80s rock and stuff like that, and trying to learn how to play the songs. And from there, I start picking up on more music from kids at school and stuff, hip hop music. And once I got into hip hop music, then I start studying it a little bit, and my dad comes to me. And so when my dad was a kid, he was in group homes and stuff like that, and he was putting a lot of group homes in Omaha with a lot of the kids from the hood and stuff like that. And so he got introduced to NWA early, and KRS-One and all of these classic hip-hop artists, and he loved it at the time. So when I start getting into hip hop music, even though it wasn't what he primarily bumped as an adult, he was like, oh shit, this is like the music of my childhood. So he put me on to NWA. The first album that I can ever remember getting that I owned was Straight Outta Compton by NWA. I had my grandma take me to Sam Goody in the mall. I don't know if anyone remembers that store. And she bought me Straight Outta Compton by NWA, and I pick that album apart, piece by piece by piece, song by song, bar by bar, verse by bar. You get what I'm saying. And so then after that, I start hanging out with the homies, and we start gambling, just stupid. I think we played blackjack or something. We played some dumbass gambling. We didn't really know how to gamble, but we knew a couple card games, so we would gamble like that. And and we would, but we didn't really have money. Sometimes we would have money, like, you know, we'd have like $10-$20 or something, but we didn't really have money, so we would gamble our belongings. We would gamble CDs, maybe clothes, hats, just whatever we had, you know. My homie might put up a CD, and I might put up a hat that I had, you know, and so I acquired a lot of new music that way, just from gambling. And that sounds crazy because I was like 10, 11 years old, just like straight gambling. And that's how I found a lot of new music, though. You know, I remember my homie. What CDs did I get like that, man? I got 50 Cent's The Power of a Dollar. I got that way by gambling with my homie Cody. Shout out to Cody Linton, R.I.P. He passed away a couple years ago. He was one of my best friends when I was young. I don't know, but I got a lot of new music that way just from gambling. And then that was around the time like burnt CDs started becoming really popular too, but we didn't have internet, you know. So if I could, I would have my homies make me CDs and stuff like that. And then we finally got internet, and then once we got internet at my crib, it was over with. I got LimeWire, I had everything. I just started studying music, and I listened to everything. And so yeah, I guess that's where music came from. And I got a real diverse background with music. I was raised by my mother, my father, and my grandparents on my mom's side primarily. And I mean, I had a lot of family involved with my life. My dad had a stepmom, and so he kind of had, I kind of had like 3 sets of grandparents pretty much growing up, and they all listened to vastly different music. My maternal grandma listened to all the classic country, or super classic rock, the oldies, the golden oldies, you know, oldies but goodies. And so I grew up on a lot of like Conway Twitty, Johnny Cash, man, and just whatever was on the radio, like the Temptations. I used to love that. I still do that song. Why do you build me up, Buttercup, baby, just to let me down? And so thank you to my grandma for that, by the way, because without her, I don't think I would have had that influence on my life. And I love that kind of music, even to this day. So yeah, from my mom, and my mom loved like top 40 and pop. You know, she was very big into, she liked some hip hop, like the popular hip hop. Like my dad appreciated and loved the underground, the more underground hip hop, like the street shit, you know, NWA, Ice Cube, Ice-T, shit like that. And my mom like the pop hip hop, like the early 2000s, like the bubblegum hip hop, which I also love to death. To this day, most of my favorite songs are the popular songs from artists. I'm not one of them music snobs that's like, oh, well, did you hear the hidden track on his first album that nobody bought? And you know, like, I'm not really into stuff like that. I in general, I believe most of the time artists' biggest songs tend to be some of their best, you know? Yeah, so I mean, it was just like, I guess that's where my passion for music came from. I always loved it. I just always remember loving music. I don't know. And when I was a little kid, I used to like to play video games. Had a PlayStation and GameCube, and I used to look forward to the soundtracks on all of the games, and just I found a lot of new artists that way, and was introduced to a lot of new stuff that way. Then when I was living at my grandma's house when I was probably like 10 years old, and I had these neighbors named Xavier, was like my homie that I used to chill with the most. He had a little brother named Tristan, and a sister named Whitley, and I got a lot of my music from them. Those were the first people who really introduced me to like trap music, like southern music. They put me on to Afro Man, and they put me on to T.I., and they put me on to Jeezy, and just like real like hardcore ass music, you know. I mean, my dad put me on the NWA or whatever, but like they put me onto the new hardcore music, you know. And I don't even like calling it hardcore. That sounds corny, but I guess for lack of a better term, that's what it is. And when they showed me that, then that shit just blew my wig back a whole nother level. Like, I wanted to be from the South so bad. I wanted to be black so bad. I wanted to be hood so bad. I really did. And at the time, I didn't understand. You know what I mean? I mean, I didn't like growing up where I was in Nebraska. There wasn't a lot of black people. There was a lot of Mexican people and a lot of white people, and that was about it. I mean, and I shouldn't just say Mexican. It was a lot of Latino people. You know, we had El Salvadorians, we had Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, but we didn't have a lot of black people. I did have some black homies growing up. It's not like there's zero black people there, but black people probably make up, you know, less than 10% of the population there. And so I didn't understand a lot of the struggles that black people went through. I mean, I knew about, you know, the old days and Jim Crow and, you know, slavery and all that. I knew about that, but I thought that shit was all fixed because where I was at, it wasn't super racist. And as I got older, I started to see racism more and more. But at the time, I just wanted to be black, bro. Everybody that I looked up to was black. Like, all the athletes that I looked up to were black. All of the musicians that I looked up to were black. And it's because of that, because of my neighbor putting me on to like Southern hip hop, like T.I. and Afro Man and shit like that, you know? And so, yeah, from there it was history. And like I'm like such a melting pot because I loved everything. I love the rock music. I loved the hip hop. I loved what I don't even know what to call it. Like the old timey music, you know, like Motown. I guess you would call it Motown. I loved Motown. I loved even country. It wasn't my favorite genre, and as I got older, it was the genre that I looked for the least and that I related to the least. But I love some country songs. There's some country songs that are so good. Like I would go from listening to what you know about that, and then the next song on my burnt CD would be like we'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way or whatever. I think it's Toby Keith or something. I don't know, but I always loved that song. Actually, I don't even think I ever put it on any burnt CDs, but I used to love when it came on the radio. And so that's where my passion for music comes from. And then, you know, when I became a teenager, I start rapping at parties and I start doing performances and stuff like that. And when that happened, I started getting a lot of positive attention from people and people that I respected around town, just like the cool kids, I guess you would call it. They start showing me love because I was decent at it, you know? And everybody just kind of supported it. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of people that were like, oh, this dumbass, you know, like, but I didn't listen to them. I still don't. I just, the people that I cared about, the people whose opinions I cared about, they all showed love. So yeah, then of course I'm going to keep doing it because I'm getting a positive reaction from people. And I was like 14 years old and doing shows in bars and clubs, and they're slipping me shots or whatever I want. And so I felt like the shit. Of course I'm going to do that. And so, yeah, so I guess the rest is history from there. You know what I mean? And I just kept studying and getting deeper and deeper into music. And, you know, and after so long of rapping, then I start producing. Like I said, I already played guitar in my younger years. And that's how I got started performing, is I was playing guitar. And then so I start going to local venues, asking to perform, hitting up promoters, asking to open up shows, and like they were just like, sure, you know, like they didn't care. So and this was also before everybody was a local musician, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't that many people that were trying to be musicians, you know? I mean, Yeah, it wasn't that many people. Like, and it might have been a lot of people who made music or played music or liked music, but it wasn't that many people that were like doing shows and like making MySpace pages and like really pursuing music. And so I was, you know. And so yeah, that's how I got into music. Yeah, let's get to this next question, I guess. That was a real long-winded answer, but I didn't even cover half of what I could have covered answering that question. So, and also, let me let y'all know, too, if there's anything that y'all want to hear me talk about, any questions y'all want to hear me answer, make sure you drop a comment somewhere on my social media, you DM me, you drop a comment on this video. Hey, man, if y'all would, just drop a comment on this video either way. Hit like, make sure y'all subscribe, all of that good shit. But if y'all drop a comment with a question, I'll be sure to answer it on a future episode for you. That explain your passion for music was from Big Trone. The next question I got is whisper, and it's spelled different, and there's a long story behind why it's spelled different. It's the homie, I know him, he's from Norfolk. He said it's WISPER_SB, which stands for skateboarding. He said, how do you feel about dreaming too big in your hometown? Feel like everyone hates because they grew up similar. Just curious, your thoughts. Feel like I need to move at times. I mean, people definitely hate, bro. Like, you know, but you can't cater to them. You can't make decisions based on those people. If you feel like you need to leave Norfolk or your home, anybody listening to this, if you feel like you need to leave your hometown, just all that I ask is just please don't base it on the opinions of people that don't like you anyways, you know, or don't support you anyways. If you're gonna do it, base it on the opinions of one, yourself, two, the people that you love and care about that are around you, whether that be your family, your friends, people like that, your kids. That's who you should be basing things on. Yeah, people will definitely hate when they come from the same place as you and they see you, you know, taking risks and trying to do something bigger, trying to find a bigger meaning to your life. Because by you searching for a greater meaning in life and by you creating a lane for yourself, all it's doing is showing them that they're thinking small. And people don't like that. People think that, you know, like, they think that, I think a lot of people use humility as a disguise for the fact that they're afraid to fail. And you can't let that get in the way of your ambition. You know, you can't let that get in the way of your hopes and your dreams and what you know you're capable of. You know, I mean, people sit there and they talk bad about, you know, like bodybuilders, like really strong people who are always in the gym. And number one, they create the stereotype that those people are stupid, or they create the stereotype that, you know, whatever stereotypes they create, they talk shit. They say, oh, he must be on steroids or whatever. And maybe sometimes they are. Don't do steroids, y'all. But my point is that everybody wants to be that. There's nobody out here. There's nobody in the world that doesn't want a six-pack and big muscles, and you know what I'm saying? So it's like, but even if you achieve that, you're achieving what everybody wants, and people will still find a reason to tear you down for it, you know? So, and the other thing to remember too is like, there's two sides to the coin. So like, you know, there's always gonna be somebody to hate on you no matter how good you're doing. You know what I'm saying? You could become a rapper, sell 1 million records, and there's still gonna be somebody out there saying, ha, he didn't sell 2 million records. You know what I'm saying? Like, or you know what I mean though? Like, or they'll say, oh, he only sold that many records because he had so and so on his album, or you know, they're going to make excuses for why what you did isn't impressive enough. And it doesn't matter what level you achieve. You know what I mean? So I think if you want to leave Norfolk, I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea. I don't think it's a good or a bad idea because I don't know what you truly feel inside. I think you need to go based off what you feel inside. And just make sure that whatever decision you end up making, it's not because hold on, I messed up the audio yesterday. Okay, I needed to make sure I'm not messing it up again today. But make sure that whatever decision you make is not for other people, in any way or for any reason. The third and final question for today is Morgan Myers Official. That's at Morgan Myers Official on TikTok. They said, "What's your favorite song you've made up to this point in your career?" I got a couple. I really like Lead the Way for the simple fact that was the first song I dropped through Bashtown, and the big homie Baby Bash supported it, and he actually like executive produced it, I guess you could say. I made the song by myself and stuff like that, like in my room, but then he's the one who got it mixed professionally, and he had a big hand in the video and the concept and all of that. So that was a big deal for me, and I'll always, remember that and cherish that song. But I would say the number one song, well, I got two. Number one is called Afraid to Die, and I can't even really explain to y'all why. It's an amazing song I don't call my own music amazing much. I think I'm a good artist, but amazing is a word that I reserve for very special moments. But I really think that song is amazing. But my favorite song that y'all would know that's out right now is Tombstone. And the reason why is because Tombstone was a self-fulfilling prophecy. And what I mean by that is I put out Tombstone, and everything that I said in Tombstone happened. It's just so the song I started out, I said, somehow I found hope in a hopeless place. Now I don't really care what a broke say. I don't leave the crib if I don't get paid. Gotta watch your back when they know your face. Gotta know your place. Gotta know your worth. I need my deposit on my phone, don't work. Anyway, so that whole song just like it came to life. The song came to life. The lyrics were already some real shit, and I was already talking about things that I had really lived through and real life experiences, but just in an arbitrary way. But then that song truly came to life after that. After that, I got booked by a janky promoter in Houston, and the dude was a hardcore meth user, right? And he called me up one day when I was up in Nebraska, and he's like telling me this whole story. He's like, I got clean. I'm doing so much better. I got a full-time job now, all of this shit. And I'm like, you know what? That's great, because he's a talented person. And then, so I end up booking a show with him. I'm like, all right, you know what? Let's do it. Like, I was like, it sounds like you're doing good and all of this shit. That's great. So let's do it. And we booked this show. I get down to Houston. Dude is strung out. His apartment looks like a crack den. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, bro, like this like my worst nightmare type shit. He ends up screwing over all of the openers, and it was honestly probably the most traumatic week of my life mentally. Not physically, but just like mentally and emotionally, because he played games with my head, with everybody's heads, but I felt like it taught me so much about my life. Anyways, the second verse of that song, I say, I'm driving like I'm 80 fucking 5. Got a warrant, so I wore the camouflage. Now there's parts of town that I would rather dodge. All my tendencies been eating me alive. So when I'm on my way from Nebraska down to Texas for this show, I get pulled over 10 minutes away from the Nebraska-Kansas border by a state trooper. And I'm driving, and I didn't feel like I had anything to worry about. I knew I had a warrant in what's called Dodge County. But I wasn't worried about it because Dodge County is like 3 hours away, 4 hours away, and my warrant was just for a simple weed charge that I never went to court for. But I was like, they're never gonna arrest me for like, because I assumed, I was like, if they arrest me here, they're gonna have to transport me 3 hours away. I was like, it's not gonna, I'm fine, you know? I was wrong. They arrested my ass. And keep in mind, I got a show coming up in a couple days. So I go to this jail in Hebron, Nebraska, the Thayer County Jail. There's like 3 cells in it. When I first get in there, there's one other person in the jail, and I don't really even get to see him or nothing. He's like a couple cells down from me, though. I can kind of hear him from time to time. And I ended up raising the money through fans and friends and family and everybody. You know, everybody pitched in $50 here, $100 there, until we ended up being able to get me out of jail just in the nick of time, because I think it was a holiday weekend, maybe Memorial Day weekend or something. And so if we wouldn't have got me out when we got me out, I had to spend the night in jail, but I got out the next morning. But if I wouldn't have got out when I did get out, I was going to have to sit there until Monday, and I was going to have to miss my entire concert in Houston. It was my first time headlining Warehouse Live, and it was a big deal for me. And but it's crazy because let's going back to those lyrics. I said, I'm driving like I'm 85. I got pulled over for doing 85 in, I think, a 70. I was speeding though, but that's why I got pulled over. I'm driving like I'm 85. Got a warrant, so I wore the camouflage. I got arrested for the warrant that I had. I guess I wasn't wearing camouflage. I should have been. Now there's parts of town that I would rather dodge. The warrant was out of Dodge County, Nebraska. And then I said, all my tendencies been eating me alive. And that's pretty self-explanatory. Like, the lifestyle that I was living and the way that I was moving was, you know, almost my downfall. I mean, it was my downfall in a lot of ways, but in that story specifically, like, that's what bit me in the ass. Like, that's what ate me alive. So yeah, Tombstone, one of the most memorable songs I've ever made for those reasons. And there's more. If you listen to the lyrics of that song, like, it just resonated. It resonated in an uncanny way. It resonated with me in a way that was like, it felt like God wrote that fucking song, and it felt like somebody who saw my future already wrote that song. That's what it feels like when I go back and I listen to it now or read the lyrics now. So yeah, that would probably be my favorite one. And we're probably at, let me see how long we're at right now. Let me see. Oh yeah, we're over 42 minutes, so I'm probably gonna call that a wrap on this one. I'm trying to keep these shorter, like around 30 to 40 minutes, because it's a pain in the ass for me to get these all uploaded off my phone, because I have to upload it to my computer. And then actually I don't know. I'm gonna try to figure something out to get y'all longer episodes, but to everybody still rocking with me, to everybody watching these and tuning in, I appreciate y'all more than you know. Yeah, man. Let me know. Hey, like I said, if anybody made it this far, drop a comment with a question, a topic you want to see me cover, anything you want to see me talk about. I'm doing this for y'all. So whatever y'all want to hear me cover, I'm going to cover. Drop a comment on this video. Hit me in the DMs on whatever sites you use. And let's go, man. Y'all make sure to check out Rock the Boat with my boy J-Zack. It's my newest song. I'll have more new music out soon. And I love y'all, man.